Hello, welcome to Dissident Canada. My name is Tyler. I am recording on Friday. Or not Friday, Jesus. Thursday. The day before the all-important Friday meeting between Trump and Putin. Which not a lot of people, at least in the mainstream, are signaling how important this is. This is the first time in almost 4 years that the two people who are, or the two leaders that are actually at war via the proxy Ukraine are speaking one-on-one. Now, it's in person, and yes, Trump has had phone calls, but this is much different because it's an actual sort of conference going on. Now, there's multiple topics that are on the agenda, but I would presume the one that's going to get the lion's share is Ukraine, because duh. But there's a lot of interesting things that can go on around said very important negotiation. Look, for example, Trump is on a deadline. He needs to get something done, some sort of agreement between him or Putin, or pull out of Ukraine in general, before sometime in September, because the Senate is currently in recess, and when they get back to doing things, they will do everything in their power to F over Donald Trump, because there are billions, if not trillions of dollars online for this war. And remember, every player gets a say in how things go down. They may not get much of a say, but they do get a say. So it's going to be real interesting what this comes out of it. I don't think, tomorrow after the conference, much will get done on day one. It'll be, in the days and weeks coming. And, it's really on Trump. Putin has repeatedly offered the exact same off-ramp to everybody that is quite agreeable, considering Putin's and the Russian perspective of this is a war of existential existence. If they allow NATO into Ukraine, if they allow the Banderites to remain in control of Ukraine, there will be a full-on total war using Ukraine as a proxy, if not a full-on war between NATO and Russia and whatever allies Russia can garner up. That's the Russian perspective, okay? For the most part. We also had talks of NATO putting nukes, in Kiev or Lvov. No, that is a very aggressive move against a country that doesn't want to attack you. Just look at Putin's Russia, all right? He does not make aggressive moves unless forced to. Look at what happened in Georgia. You had terrorist activities happening in Georgia, and the people that were perpetrating them were running across the border into Georgia. Then Putin sent an expeditionary force in to quell those people. And then the price paid for having Putin do that instead of the Georgians doing it themselves, because Putin repeatedly asked, they didn't do anything because it was all provoked by the CIA yet again. The price paid was, I get this territory. It wasn't the most amount of territory that he could have taken, but it was enough to show that I'm not fucking around. Okay? Like, I'm not here trying to run defense for Putin or Russia. I'm trying to tell you exact or as close to the truth as humanly possible about the situation and the risks. Like, Putin, by far, is probably not the best human being. But, by that extension, he's also not the manifestation of Satan. If you take a real politic look at the situation, you want Putin in charge because everybody else is far more extreme. Like, when Putin finally passes off power to someone, it's likely Medvedev, and nobody wants that. While, yes, he is Putin's chosen successor at the time, he has also been radicalized by the West to not fuck around with us in the West. And you know, have a heavier hand. Thank you, Obama. Um, yeah. So, back to the negotiations. This is really all on Trump. If Trump needs to be able to sell either getting out of Ukraine, walking away, or, hey, I can actually got a deal. Now, whether or not Ukraine agrees to that is not that important. As long as Trump is like, well, I had a deal, it was on the table, this Zelensky guy, he's just out there. I can't deal with him, so we're out. Like, as long as Trump heads down towards that path at the very least, you've got a great outcome from this. But, again, you've got, hundreds of billions of dollars on the line to keep the war going. Or to keep some form of proxy going. Whether it goes cold and it's a rearmament period doesn't really matter to the business interests that want this to keep going. Or if it goes into like guerrilla partisan warfare, they don't really care. They just want more monies. That's all they want. So Trump has to contend with all those interests. And because they are globally linked, he has to also contend with other interests that could get him distracted. As seen, Wednesday night, at least for me, there was supposedly missile launch from Yemen into the center of Israel by the Houthis. Whether or not that was at the direction of Iran, still up in the air, because there's a lot of good reasons why, some CIA contacts in the region would hand off some missiles to the Houthis and be like, hey, maybe you should hit this target in Israel. Like, there's a lot of good reasons, or even, let's just say, Mossad would do that, to distract Trump from what he needs to get done tomorrow, or today for you guys, and going forward with the peace negotiations. And instead, he gets bogged down yet again with Israel and Iran. I was also, I haven't watched it yet, but what is it? Declassified with, what's his name? Former Fox News guy, Clayton, whatever. He had someone on, and he was talking about how Israel was preparing for an imminent attack on Iran, and it was going to be bigger than last time. And it's like, I said that a while ago, at least a couple weeks ago. I was saying, hey, this may have gone cold, but Benjamin Netanyahu has every reason to go forward with this, and zero reason to back the ever-living hell off. Okay? Especially with the bad press around Gaza. Like, he's got every reason to distract everybody with a bigger war. And, then he can draw Trump in and maybe sucker in the Americans into a ground war in Iran, which, God forbid that ever happen. It would be the dumbest fucking mistake of Trump's presidency. Like, costing him the midterms would be, like, the smallest portion of it. His entire domestic agenda gets rolled back and he probably dies in prison, however long that stint is. Like, it's that level of bad. And the world goes into chaos. But it benefits certain people. So I hope Trump and his team of not dumbass advisors, so Hegseth, Vance, Kennedy, and Tulsi, and Witkoff, are on the watch for the other idiots in Trump's administration, such as Mark fucking Levin, who keeps showing up doing the war whore dance. Now, it seems like Trump has set this up to be a fairly successful adventure. He's given himself room with the recess of the Senate, so he doesn't have the Senate to contend with. And he's Lindsey Graham is out there not completely being insane for a change. Hey, remember, I limit this. Not completely. The man is insane. He's still doing crazy shit. It's just not immediately trying to dismantle this at this time. So he's focused more on Israel at the moment. So there is hope. But, like, man, can this go really bad. And Trump's foreign policy track record this time round is not the greatest. Trying to tap China when they have you by the short and curlies with rare earths, and you can't do anything about it, because if you wanted to start new mining operations and source new supplies of rare earth, is going to take you 10 years to get those mines up and running, if you get them up and running right now. Like, that's bad. When you show your hand like that you can't do anything. It's why Trump recently extended with 90 days for negotiations with China. Because China has a very strong hand to counterplay. But also, putting too much pressure on China right now is probably a bad idea. The pressure cooker of China continues to build internally with their domestic policy choices of being totalitarian communist shitbags. So that's not great. But yeah, so this is going to be a very important meeting. Who knows how it's going to go? Trump will probably come out and say whether or not anything good or bad happened. It'd be like, it was a good meeting, we're going to continue talks, something like that. You know how Trump talks. Like, he's going to talk it up, be like, yeah, it was good. And then, 2 weeks from now, it'd be like, nah, fuck that. It was a terrible meeting. Got nothing done. More sanctions. Like, if Trump tries to use the secondary sanctions, it's going to bite him in the ass domestically, because you could drive up energy prices, even though, okay, there is a upper limit right now to energy prices because of deflationary, recessionary pressures. How high that limit is probably still too high for the people of the world, but specifically the American people right now, to pay for any sustained period of time, which, again, why Israeli-Iranian flashpoint is really bad for Trump as well, because that could drive up oil prices, or that will drive up oil prices. Yeah, so these peace talks, very, very important, very iffy, because, Trump has not been at the top of his game with foreign policy this term round. Nor was he there in his first term, because he listened to John Bolton a couple of times, and that was dumb. But it seems he may have learned his lesson. He didn't send Kellogg to prep this meeting with Putin. He sent Witkoff. Witkoff is more of a realist and seems to understand what the hell to actually do in the situation. So it's quite hopeful. But again, there's hundreds of billions of dollars on the line, and the people who get a taste of that, they're also going to have a say. And if they have to spend $100 million causing trouble, they will. Because the ROI is insanely good. So, should all take a careful, deep breath and watch this with bated patience while other things are happening. Just keep this in the back of your mind. Trump is on a deadline. If he can't get this, some type of narrative in place to walk away by September, it will be his war. And I still think no matter what, if Trump gets a deal with Putin, there's probably no deal with Zelensky to be had. So I think the war ends in blood. I think Zelensky's days are numbered, no matter what he does. If he hints at making peace with Russia, he's going to have to contend with the Banderites. They're a bunch of radical nutjob neo-Nazis that will absolutely whack his ass. Probably his wife too, because they're crazy. It will not be pleasant. It will be on the level of Gaddafi, if not worse. Because that's the type of people you are dealing with. And if it ends in blood, I do not think Russia will be satisfied with just the Donbass, the 4 oblasts that they have, let's say, reclaimed. I think they will take across the Dnieper and down there in the, the Black Sea there. They will take from Crimea all the way up to, Romania, Moldova area. So they'll reclaim Odessa and just completely landlock the rest of Ukraine and let the crazy fucking parts of Ukraine remain crazy. But that'll just set up another war. NATO will try again. They'll probably, instead of using Ukraine that next time, they will likely use Romania, which is why that Romanian election was so contested by the EU technocrats. And it's likely why they will go after Poland again in the next Polish election. Hopefully the Poles can win yet again. So that's just a quick little rundown on these peace negotiations and shit. That's the video for today. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I will see you on Monday with something. And I will leave you with a great thing that happened to me last night. It was fantastic. If you remember from a few months ago, I believe, maybe even last year, the YouTube peeps may not have watched the video, but I have been increasingly on the side that the mass immigration problem is very much due to the Eurodollar and the economy being shit, and it is an easy way to juice the numbers to give you a false sense of positive economic movement by saying, hey, look, the numbers are good. And though if you know basically anything about economic data, you're like, no, those numbers are terrible. They're worse than terrible. They're god-awful. But besides the point. To the uninformed masses of the details, it looks decent, let's say. Well, Edward Dowd, I believe he's a former BlackRock guy who has been doing penance for the last 5 years. I believe he's also one of the guys who has been looking at the numbers of all-cause mortality and, all the death stuff post-COVID and post-pokey pokes. He came out and he was like, yo, the reason why, like, Canada and other countries are continuing the mass immigration is to completely juice the economic data. I'm like, yes, when I say it, I'm the nut. But at the very least, I am ahead of the curve and validated. I will take whatever the hell I can get. So, see you Monday. Have a great weekend. And I guess there's nothing else.